watch Pac go from being a backup dancer with Digital Underground to, of course, dropping the. I tell people, if you listen to Tupacalypse now, you will really, really get a true appreciation for how talented that man was. Because that's between that and Me Against the World, those are probably my two favorite Pac albums. Although all of them were great. What was it like watching Tupac start off his career, and then your subsequent meeting you would have with him the first time?
It was amazing. I mean, when I first saw him in New York, I disliked him immensely. He was loud. He was obnoxious. He was, I used to see him standing in line at the clubs, and whenever he came up, he was always with a large entourage. They were always trying to get to the front of the line. They were always loud and raucous, and it was just like there were many times where I'd see him come up, and I would just get off the line and go home because I didn't want to be inside the club knowing full well that some shit was going to pop off because they were rowdy, They were rowdy and ratchet and loud. And I wasn't about that. I was going to the club because I wanted to hear music and dance. So I would kind of turn around and go home. And when I met him because I was trying to help him when he was attacked at Quad Studios. I knew that he didn't really have anybody on the East Coast he could turn to. And at the time I had a relationship with the Nation of Islam. So I called Brother Arthur from Fruit of Islam and asked him to help Tupac, and he did. And for me, that was kind of the end of it. I didn't think that they would tell him that I had requested that. I really didn't think any further, to be honest. He was just this loud, obnoxious asshole in my eyes, and I was just doing what I felt was right as somebody that cared about artists, and I was worried about him as a rapper, And he sent me a thank you, and he told me that it was nice to know that somebody liked his music so much that they were willing to go to bat for him. And when I read that, it really pissed me off because I really didn't like his music that much. He wasn't as lyrical as my taste in music at the time. I thought he chose terrible production, and I found him obnoxious and loud, and he brought a lot of the drama that he was incurring, he brought to himself, and that's how I truly felt. And he wrote me back, and when I saw the return address, my first thought was, uh-oh. Because I went hard at him. And I just thought I was going to get back a letter. Well, I didn't know he was going to write me back, to be honest. I thought he was just going to be like, fuck that bitch. And when I got the letter back from him, I thought he was going to just tell me off. And when I read the letter, it was the most intelligent and thoughtful letter that I had read. And maybe because he felt like I helped him when he needed help, that he couldn't just be like, yeah, fuck you, bitch. Maybe that's why he didn't come back at me hard, but he actually was trying to explain his point of view and how he was loud because that's what everybody expected of him. And that's what he thought he had to be to stand out and be a star. And the people that he was around, that's the type of personality they wanted him to be. And he pointed out that he's a man of many textures. And we all saw it. We saw the Dear Mama Tupac. We saw Hold Your Head Up Tupac. And then we also saw, shoot two cops in the ass Tupac. We saw the two director twins. I forget their names now.
Alan and Albert Hughes from the Menace Society. Yeah, the Menace Society situation. Right.
Exactly.
For those that know it. Yeah.
So we saw that Tupac. He was very multifaceted, just like we all are. And when I read his response, I was like, oh, shit, he's right. Like, I can't really be mad at him. I didn't agree with him on every point that he made, but he made some excellent points. So I wrote him back, and we had, like, a discussion about that and then about life. And then he's like, I love what you're doing with Rap Coalition, but you can't keep doing shit for free. People won't respect you. You've got to charge people. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to charge people, because that was the whole point of me starting Rap Coalition, was to help people when they needed it. And he's like, yo, people find money for weed. People find money for the new Jordans when they drop. People find money for what's important to them. And my argument to him was, okay, yeah, I get that, but if people need help, help should not be prerequisite on whether you have money or not. And he didn't agree with me, but we agreed to disagree. But what I did agree with him on was, he said to me, you know how the African American community is, and you know that if you want to grow faster and stronger and really get the coalition to the next level, you're going to have to be co-signed by people that know that you've got a good heart, and people that know who you are and will stand up and say, okay, Wendy's for good. Wendy's not on some bullshit. And he said, you need to set up a board of directors or a board of advisors. And he's like, I'm going to lead that charge. I'm going to go out and get other rappers to co-sign you. And I said, you know what? I love that, but I would love for you to be my first board of advisor. But if you don't mind, I would like to pick the board, because I want to make sure that I'm picking artists that genuinely care about other artists, not just people that are trying to be part of a coalition because they want free press. Because back then, we had issues with artists that would do shit like charity work when the cameras were rolling because they wanted the press, or they would do shit, that they believed in certain shit like the 5% Nation when they didn't, because that was the fad. So I wanted to make sure that anybody that touched my organization had my values and my morals, and he agreed with that. He thought that made perfect sense. So he was my first board of director, then Chuck D, then Vinny from Naughty by Nature, then Too Short, and then it just kind of, it spiraled from there as my organization grew and people wanted to be helpful to the, to the community. So he was absolutely right. Like, once he co-signed me, my company exploded in a good way.
And it's funny, Wendy, because this is a situation, but because Pac he was known at the time. He was superstar status. One would even argue he was a superstar status. When you said there were so many textures,
oh yeah.
Maya Angelou told the story about when she was on the set for Poetic Justice, and something had happened, and he had just went off and was just really upset about something, and she had to calm him down about it. People got to understand, in terms of Pac's family history, what that man represented in terms of coming from the Panthers. Yeah, and you figure basically, and we are going to say this on air, his family was basically hunted down by the laws his whole life. So this man, Mama Athene, Mama Asada, it's just so, there are just so much going on. Matulu, it was so much. And, but to see where he started in 91 when he dropped his first album, and this is when he gets shot at Quad Studios, November 28, 1994. So you figure within really 3 years, he's done what about he did Poetic Justice in 90. He has done 2 movies from 91 to 94, released 2-3 albums.
Then he did the movie
like you said, yeah, got away, like you said. Yeah, like he was saying, like you said, Wendy, in the ass, because they were harassing the black motorists, of which he got acquitted for. Now, mind you, this is the 90s, y'all, when this happened. And he got acquitted because it was self-defense. Exactly. So, I mean, his hood legend was, like, on another level after that. So, I mean, so he was major. And by proxy, your movement became major. What did you start in the 90s, begin